Do you listen to a lot of acapella music on your own, or do you listen to not acapella music when you're? Because like, so for example, like me being a musician, I listen to so much music at work that outside of work, like I'm listening to like finance. I like listen to something totally not music related. You know, I'm curious your perspective on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there are two parts to that. There's one like acapella versus non-acapella, and for that, I definitely listen to more non-acapella music.
Okay.
Um, I think most of acapella is derivative. It's
Mm.
cover songs for the most part, and it's kind of doing versions of these original music. There is a lot of amazing original acapella too,
Hmm.
um, but cover-wise, they're just I try to take inspiration more from the non-acapella world and
Sure.
just the general music world because there's just more diversity of everything.
How do
Uh,
you write? How do you write a cappella? Because like you said, it's a lot of it comes from previously written stuff. So you're covering a Taylor Swift song. Well, the chord progression's already there for you, 4 5 6, or whatever. Like it's already there. The bass line is there for you covering "Beat It" by Michael Jackson. That bass line's already there. Like where do you start? If you're starting from an a cappella original.
yeah, I think there are a lot of different ways to do it, and with Pentatonix, they've kind of been figuring this out over the years. And for their first original album, it was a lot of trying to kind of create original music and also marrying the a cappella element at the same time as they were
Hmm.
writing the songs. So they would be working with producer songwriters and kind of be like, oh, let's, as they're writing the song, they're trying to incorporate all these vocal elements, which was cool. But I think a better way to do it is the way that we did it this time for
For the
this,
lucky ones.
yeah,
Okay.
which is producers and songwriters got to flesh out these fully produced non-acapella versions of the songs
Wow. Cool.
because that's what they're used to. Uh,
Yeah.
and so instead of having to be like, okay, I'm doing my thing, writing a song,
Yeah.
also trying to incorporate this acapella thing that I don't know a ton about, it was more like I'm going to be in my lane, doing this songwriting, producing as I normally would with any other artist. Um, and so that was the first step of what happened. And
Yeah.
then after that, I would take it and adapt it to acapella.
Dude, you guys should totally like B sides and rarities release that as
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, for
that'd be
sure.
so cool to hear, man. The
Yeah.
behind
So
the scenes of
totally. It's been a really fun. This past album was super fun to work on because, I basically got the session with the stems of everything. And I
that's
was like,
sick,
okay,
man.
here's this super rad bass line. How can I make it sound good a cappella? Here's this cool guitar part. It's also in figuring out what to include, what not to include,
Sure.
because I'm not just going to replicate the entire production from top to bottom because it's also just not necessary. When you're dealing with a cappella stuff, I feel like you don't need as many sounds happening at once because the human voice
Hmm.
is just so expressive.
Yeah.
Um, so it doesn't have to be quite as layered.
Yeah.
Uh, but it ended up being pretty layered and it was really fun to
Yeah.
get to kind of dig in and
Okay.
take
So that is one of the biggest debates that happens on this channel is, you
yeah.
know, uh, being a producer, I can hear, okay, that sounds like a layered vocal right there. People are like, they would never do that. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a layered layering. Do you guys? Because originally, from what I understand, Pentatonic started with just doing what they could perform live.
Yeah.
But now it sounds like there's layered vocals or stuff like that, and I'd be interested if you could help me clear that up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we have to, for the original music, they kind of look at it as more of a pop radio lane.
Hmm.
Um, so the fact that it's just what they can perform live, it gets really limiting
Sure.
when you're
Yeah.
trying to
Absolutely.
when this is the first version of the song that anyone has ever heard. They want to compete with the other songs on the radio. So having a million different layers
Yeah.
creates more of a full, rich sound, obviously. So that's kind of the thinking there. And then for the covers, they're still going to continue to do just 5 part. Sometimes there's a little extra thing here and there, but for the most part, what they can perform live.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting.
yeah. So generally speaking,
Even the
cover.
produced up covers. Or are you talking about like the mashup style stuff?
I mean, even Produced stuff. I mean,
I guess
there,
actually, as
there,
they've got grown, like it's become more and more produced in general. I was originally,
yeah,
but the stuff I'm thinking of is even earlier, so that would make sense. Yeah, yeah.
right. I mean,
So,
there's also other things besides layering, obviously, like
of
delay.
course, yeah, yeah,
We also stack everything. So, you know, Mitch and Kirsty are, if they're singing like a background part, um, it's their vocal layered like 3 times each, singing the same notes, the same part. But just to give it some added thickness, so you can pan it left, right, center. You can make it sound really full, and that's something we've been doing forever.
See,
Um,
this is you're talking my lingo, man. Now I'm getting pumped to talk about this stuff. I love this stuff. So, okay, so Mitch and is it Kirsty?
Kirsten or Kirsty, yeah,
Okay, okay, yeah, okay. Um, she like okay. So you're saying that you would layer them 3 times and stuff. So is that six technically six vocals then?
yeah,
So I've always been blown away, especially with the acapella or even just harmonies in general. Like because okay, I'm playing guitar and I could sing over the guitar or piano. A better example, like I have like a probably a upper tenor range, say.
hmm
Um, I could play lower on the piano, and now I have two different ranges going on. But it's like, and not only ranges, but we have different timbres. The piano sounds different than my voice.
right,
Relatively, voices have similar timbres. They fill relatively the same range. Obviously, we have bass, tenor, alto, and soprano, but it's still a voice. It's not like you're hearing a violin and a piano and a guitar and a, whatever.
correct.
So how do you figure that out? How do you make the main vocal come through, the bass line come through, these harmonies come through without it getting, overwhelming as a vocal? That blows my mind how you guys do that.
That is our genius mixing engineer, Ed Boyer.
Okay.
That's all him because that is the eternal struggle of the acapella mix engineer.
Yeah.
Because voices are kind of similar, like you said, you don't
Absolutely.
have these different timbres and frequencies that naturally stand out from each other in a
Yeah.
mix. So everything's competing for the same frequency range, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of trying to arrange in a way which is smart and gets things out of the way from each other. So if there's a melody, I'm not going to arrange a harmony right next to it,
Yeah.
if I can, and I try to have that separation. But a lot of the time, I end up having to do it together. But Ed, in his magicalness, is able to still create a great mix, regardless. So that is not my area of expertise, but
Are you
he is the master.
are you in the studio with them when they record?
So I record them here at my studio. Um,
Oh, and then you send the stems to him?
and then he lives in Connecticut in the woods,
Hmm.
and he is in a studio just receiving files from all over the world, mixing various a cappella groups, and that's what he does all day. It's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That is so wild, man. What a gig.
yeah.
That's so cool. As a producer, obviously, or as a arranger, I should say, I would assume that you probably have a favorite arrangement that you've done. What would your favorite be? And then what would be one that you'd be like, I wish I did this one differently?
Great question. I mean, so many of them I wish I had done differently.
Oh, that's never-ending struggle as a musician.
Yeah. One of my recent favorites is what's it called? I'm forgetting the name of it now. Um, Into the Unknown.
Okay.
Acapop Kids. And I just love that Disney orchestral, epic kind of cheesy sound. And it was super fun to dig into that. And, a lot of the lines were like violin, like string lines. And I got to create like a little mini orchestra with them. And that was super satisfying.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
Do
yeah,
you ever
just
go back and listen to your own mixes? Like, are you the musician that listens to his own music?
rarely.
Really? It's funny. It's
Yeah.
interesting to hear different perspectives because I listen to mine all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
But
most of the time, I get it out in the world, and then great, it's out in the world, and other people are enjoying it. But
yeah,
after spending so many hours recording it and comping it, and arranging it,
sure.
by that point, and also doing mix notes too. So every
Mm,
song I've listened to so many. Obviously,
absolutely.
all musicians know this, but you've listened to your stuff so much that when it's done, it's like great, it's done, and I can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, you go back in 3 months and be like, okay, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Taking some time. It is cool to take some time away and then come back to something you did, maybe even a couple of years ago, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, I kind of almost forgot that I even did that. That was cool.
Yes, I was about to say that exactly. Yeah, absolutely. What would be so? I guess you said a lot of the ones you'd probably go back and change things,
Yeah,
right?
it makes me think of my very first arrangement that I brought to the SoCal locales when I got in. It was Zach and Sarah by Ben Folds 5. And just the choice of syllables it's like a piano part, like a like that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I had the voices doing that. And it was not good. It was not a good choice to do that in that way. And the syllables were bad and it sounded horrible. And I was like, I'm gonna redo that, guys. So stuff like that. And that was kind of the first step of the never-ending correction process, and
Yeah.
realizing that certain things don't work with actual voices, and then figuring out how
Mm,
to fix it.
that's fascinating.